Alright, let's look at question 2. Find the values y could take to satisfy each given statement. First one is y times y minus 4 is 0. So if y times y minus 4 is 0, definitely one of the multiplicants got to be 0. Either y got to be 0 or as y minus 4 has to be 0. So if y minus 4 is 0, what should y be? 0 plus 4. So y equals 4. So what are the two values y could take to make the given statement or to satisfy the given statement? Y could be 0 or as y has to be 4. Alright, let's look at question B now. Y squared plus 3y is equal to 0. When you get a statement of this nature, what's the first thing you got to do? You got to factorize. You got to break this into factors, or you got to write this as a product of two factors. So what's the common factor? 3y squared and 3y. 3y is the common factor. So from 3y squared, 3 has gone out. How to get y squared? Y times what gives you y squared? That's y. Plus 3y times what gives you 3y? That's 1. So now we converted 3y squared plus 3y to a product of two factors, that is 3y times y plus 1 is 0. So when we multiply, if we are getting a 0, definitely one of the factors got to be 0. Or in other words, either the multiplicand or the multiplier got to be 0. What does that mean? Either 3y got to be 0 or as y plus 1 got to be 0. Definitely. So then if 3y is 0, what should y be? 0 divided by 3. What is 0 divided by 3? Anything divided by 3, whenever you divide 0 by something, you end up getting a 0. 0 divided by 3 is 0. Or the other possibility, if y plus 1 is 0, y equals 0 minus 1. Y equals, what is 0 minus 1? Minus 1. So what are the two answers? Or what are the two values? Or what are the values y could take? Either y could take 0. If he doesn't like to be 0, he can be minus 1. So y equals 0 or y equals minus 1. Let's look at question C now. Whenever you get to solve a quadratic equation, make sure, since you're in grade 10, the method that you are going to use is the factorizing method. So when you have to do the factorizing method, always one side of the equation got to be 0. So here there's a problem. There is, instead of 0, or we would love to see a 0 in the right hand side, but they haven't given in that way. It is not 0, it's 4y. So what is our first task? Our first task is to make the right hand side of the equation 0. How do we do that? Let's ask the 4y to go to the other side. So plus 4y goes other side. What does it become? Minus 4y. 4y was the only thing that was in the right, and it moved to the left. So what is remaining in the right now? Nothing. How do you indicate nothing? By putting a 0. Now what's next to be done? You got to factorize the left hand side. So what do we have in the left hand side? We have a trinomial, a three-term quadratic expression. Check whether you see a factor which is common to all three terms. But wait, my bad. Before we factorize, we can simplify, isn't it? This 10y and 4y, both of them are y's. So we can simplify. So 3y squared plus 10y minus 4y gives us plus 6y equals 0. So now what we have is a two-term expression, a two-term quadratic expression. Check whether you see a factor which is common, factor or factors which is common to the two terms. Both 3 and 6 come in the 3 times table. So 3 is a common factor. Y squared and y is common. So 3 has gone out. Y times what gives you y squared? That's y. 3 times what gives you 6? That's 2. This y is out, so y won't be written in. So now, how do you read this? 3y times y plus 2 is 0. So, if 3y times y plus 2 is 0, definitely one of the factors, either 3y or the other factor, that is y plus 2, one of those got to be 0. So, let's write that statement. 3y has to be 0, or else y plus 2 has to be 0, definitely. So if 3y is 0, what would y be? 0 divided by 3, that is 0. If y plus 2 is 0, y equals 0 minus 2. Y equals minus 2. So what are the two answers? The two values y could take is either y could take 0 or else y could be minus 2. Now remember, y can't take both the values at the same time. It can take one of the values. It can either be 0 or else it can be minus 2. Alright, question D. We got to solve this quadratic equation. Whenever you get a quadratic equation, the first thing you got to check is the right hand side 0? Here, the right hand side is 0, so all good. So then what's next? We got to factorize the left hand side. Do we have a factor which is common to all three of these terms? No, right? 3, 10 and 8. They don't come in the same times table. So the only common factor is 1, but no point of taking out 1 other than 1, nothing else. Then what do? We go to factorize this three-term expression, this trinomial quadratic expression, by grouping. So in order to do grouping, we need at least 4 terms. So how do we convert this three-term expression to a 4-term expression in such a way that factorizing is possible? There's a technique to be followed. What is the technique? We got to multiply the first term by the last term. So that's 3y squared to be multiplied by plus 8. 3y squared times 8 times plus 8. What does that give us? 24y squared. Now you got to write the multiplication combinations that could that would result in 24y squared. One option is 1y times 24y. Other one is 2y times 12y. Other one is 3y times 8y. Other one is 4y times 6y. Now, what's the next thing to be done? You got to add these combinations. 1y at 24. When you add, what do you get? 25. Second combination, 2 and 12, 14. 3 and 8, 11. 4 and 6, 10. So now you come to the main working areas. 3y squared. 3y squared plus 8 equals 0. Those things will be written as it is, but you got to split this plus 10y with something equivalent to it. What gives you plus 10y? While ago you found out that is 4 plus 6. So how do you write here? Plus 4y plus 6y. Plus 4y plus 6y. They are friends. When you add them together, when you put them together, you get plus 10. So you replace plus 10 with plus 4 plus 6. Alright, now we have got 4 terms, which means we can factorize by grouping. 3y squared plus 4y. What's the common factor? 3 and 4, nothing common other than 1, so forget about the numbers. Y squared and y is common. So y times what gives you 3y squared? That is 3y. Y times what gives you 4y? That's plus 4. Then comes the other two terms. Plus would be written as it is, 6 and 8. 2 is the common factor. 2 times 3 is 6, so 3y. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 4 equals 0. Now when you compare the pink term with the green term, you see that 3y plus 4 is the common factor. So ask him to get out. He goes out. Then what comes in? From the pink term, y comes in. From the green term, plus 2 comes in. So now we have two factors. 3y plus 4 times y plus 2 is 0. So if two factors gives you a product of 0, definitely one of the factors or both the factors got to be 0. Or in other words, the multiplicand or the multiplier got to be 0. So let's write that. Y plus 4 has to be 0, or else y plus 2 has to be 0. So if 3y plus 4 is 0, our requirement is to find the values y could take. So if 3y plus 4 is 0, what would y be? 3y equals 0 minus 4, that is minus 4. Then y is minus 4, multiplication 3 goes other side, division 3. So y equals minus 4 over 3. That's one value y could take. Or the other value y could take is y equals 0 plus 2 goes other side, minus 2. So what are the two values y could take? Write the summary. I don't have space down here, so I'll write up here. Got to write the summary as what? Y equals minus 4 over 3, or else y got to be minus 2. Alright, let's look at question E. Once again, we have a quadratic equation. The first thing to be checked is, do we see a 0 in the right hand side? The answer is no. What we see is 3. So what's our first task? Our first task is to transport that 3 to the other side. So 4y squared plus 14y plus 9. We ask this plus 3 to go other side. It becomes minus 3 equals 0. Now we can simplify. 4y squared plus 14y. What is plus 9 minus 3? That is plus 6 equals 0. Alright, our first task is done. What's the second task? Factorizing. How do we factorize this? We see 4, 14 and 6. All three of these numbers come in the 2 times table. So 2 is the common factor. 2 is common. Y squared plus 7y plus 3 equals 0. What's next? We can ask this times 2. This is 2 times. So times 2 to go to the other side. So what would happen? 2y squared plus 7y plus 3, 0. This times 2 goes other side. When multiplication 2 goes other side, what does it become? It becomes division 2. So we have 2y squared plus 7y plus 3 equals 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. Now 2, 7 and 3. Do they have a common factor other than 1? No, they don't have. That means now we have to employ the special technique of factorizing by grouping. So let me write what we have over here. What we have is 2y squared plus 7y plus 3 equals 0. How do we factorize by grouping? We got to multiply the first term by the last term. Let's do that. That is 2y squared times plus 3. What do we get? 6y squared plus 6y squared. How to get plus 6y squared by multiplying? One option is 1y times 6y. Other option is 2y times 3y. Now the step of addition. Add the numbers. What is plus 1 plus 6? That is plus 7 or 7y. What is 2 plus 3? That's 5y. So now let's go to the main workings. Y squared would come as it is, plus 3 would come as it is, equals 0 would come as it is. But plus 7y to be replaced with something equal to it. What is it equivalent to? Or what is something equivalent to 7y? That is plus 1y plus 6y. Plus 1y plus 6y. Now you can factorize by grouping. 2y squared plus 1y was the common factor. Y is common. What goes in? 2y plus 1. The next two terms, the orange color plus here would come as it is. 6 and 3. 3 is the common factor. 3 times what makes 6? That is 2y. 3 times 2y makes 6y. 3 times what would give us this blue color 3? That's 1. Now, when you compare the purple term with the black term, 2y plus 1 is the common factor. Ask him to get out. So 2y plus 1 goes out. What comes in? From the first term, y comes in. From the second term, plus 3 comes in. So now we have a multiplication which results in a 0. So if a multiplication results in a 0, definitely the multiplicand or the multiplier got to be 0. Or in other words, one of the factors definitely got to be 0. So let's make that statement. 2y plus 1 got to be 0, or else y plus 3 got to be 0. If 2y plus 1 is 0, what would 2y be? 0 minus 1. That is minus 1. Plus 1 goes other side, becomes minus 1. So what is y is minus 1 times 2 comes to the right, becomes division 2, minus half. For the other one, y equals 0 plus 3 goes other side, minus 3. So what are the two answers? We've got to write the summary at the bottom. Y equals minus half. Y can take the value of minus half, or else if he doesn't like to take the value of minus half, he has to take the value of minus 3. He can take one of these two values to satisfy the statement 4y squared plus 14y plus to satisfy the statement 4y squared plus 14y plus 9 is equal to 3. To satisfy the statement that is given to us in the question, y has to be minus half or else minus 3.